What happens if you take this old camera lens and combine it with one of the best creator cameras on the market currently? What do the results look like? You tell me. One of these videos was shot using a $40 lens, and the other one was shot with a lens that retails for almost $1,000. Here's another crazy example. This lens can shoot 200 millimeters at f5.6, and it costs a whopping $2,250. And then this one cost me $15 at an estate sale, and it shoots 200 millimeters at an f5.5. I mean, look at the difference here. $15, $2,250. This is my unofficial guide to vintage lenses and why you should try them. Shooting with a vintage lens is like taking some 90s Camaro wheels and slapping them on your brand new Lamborghini. It's like a mullet, but backwards. Like business in the back and party up front. Okay, so business in the back, we have a Sony a7 IV. In the front, we have a Nikon 35mm f2 from the mid-60s. But how do we fit these two together? That would be a lens adapter. They're actually pretty inexpensive. Lens adapters serve two purposes. They bridge the gap between your camera mount and your lens mount. They also create the space necessary to properly distance your lenses from your sensor. The viewfinder on a vintage camera has some complex mechanisms that allow you to essentially see what your lens sees when you look through it. If you look closely, this old camera has a mirror in it that bounces light up at the viewfinder. Then it uses a pentaprism, and I'm not 100% sure what a pentaprism is, but it takes your image, it kick flips it, spins it, and orients it in a way that you can see it natively the way you would with your own eye. When you press the shutter button, the mirror flips up out of the way, exposes the light-sensitive film for a moment, and then swings back down for you to take your next photo. This takes a lot of space, and lenses from that time were engineered to focus from a further distance because of it. Modern SLR cameras don't need any of that because their lens mount is right up against the sensor. So they need that extra space for older lenses so that it can focus properly. Otherwise, I'd just be duct taping lenses right to my camera to save a couple bucks. Okay, so now that you're an expert on lens adapters and how old cameras work, you can confidently go and buy your very first vintage lens. It's exhilarating because you don't know what you're gonna get. And it could be a good lens or it could be worse than, the lenses you already own. My quick suggestions for you regarding this would be the following. Prime lenses. If you can find a fast prime lens, jump on it. Super wide lenses, like a 16-35 or like a 20mm prime or something like that, go for it. Those are super rare, buy it. Telephoto lenses. I own 2 telephoto lenses, so jump on that thing. The compression and bokeh that you can get from telephoto lenses really just is not comparable to anything else. Lastly, Russian lenses, because for some reason they're badass. Everybody loves Russian lenses. Here's what you should avoid if you're looking for your first vintage lens. Most zoom lenses. Unfortunately, 75 to 80% of the lenses that you find are going to be zoom lenses with variable apertures. Vintage lenses off of older DSLR cameras. Chances are you can't change the aperture on those lenses without the original camera. So unless you're cool with shooting at like f13, I would avoid those types of lenses altogether. Super tiny lenses, such as this one from an 8mm film camera. I bought this thinking it would be cool, but all it does is make super big vignettes, and it's kind of hard to adapt to your modern camera. Okay, so you found a lens that is perfect, but you've noticed something weird about it. Here's some issues to look for so you don't end up burning yourself. Don't buy lenses with fungus on it. I don't own any fungus-riddled lenses, but if the lens has fungus on it, chances are that fungus will infect all your other lenses, and then you'll just have a bunch of fungus lenses, and nobody wants to take pictures with fungus lenses. Don't buy a lens with chipped glass or big scratches on it. Obviously, that makes sense. You know, you can sometimes get away with that if you have like a telephoto lens, but just be careful. Don't buy a lens with oil on the aperture blades. Basically what that means is the lubricant that is used for the aperture blades within that very lens is starting to fail, and it breaks down and it kind of leaks out of the lens onto the actual aperture blades. Now, it doesn't really affect the functionality of the lens. As long as you can still change the aperture, you're good, but just know at some point that lens will probably seize up and it'll just become a paperweight. And lastly, don't buy lenses that look like they were disassembled. Lenses are complex devices. If they aren't disassembled and reassembled properly, then they might not work.
One of the benefits of using an iPad to take product photos is you can see when there's a bunch of dust and dirt on your vintage lens that you bought at an estate sale. And yeah, so I'm gonna probably have to tear this apart. If you're interested in seeing that, then drop a comment.
The Nikon 35mm f2. I bought this lens at Cardinal Camera used. It's basically this giant warehouse with vintage and pre-owned camera equipment. It's literally awesome. I love it. This lens is great. It's basically got a really buttery smooth focus throw, and the aperture is super clicky. You can hear that, I'm assuming. I love it. It's cool. You can throw this on a gimbal. It's really lightweight. As far as shot quality goes, it's pretty sharp in the center, kind of tapers off and becomes sort of soft around the edges. It seems to have some level of halation and bloom around the highlights when shot wide open at f2, which is kind of cool. I like it, and I would recommend it to anybody who is looking for a 35mm prime. The Helios 442. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. The construction of this lens is absolute shit. It honestly looks like it was used in a bar fight. It's got scratches and scuffs all over it. The aperture rings have oil on them. It works. It's got a nice smooth aperture adjustment, and the focus throw is nice and smooth still. So I have no complaints. All in all, it's a pretty compact 58mm prime. In the intro to this video, I compared this very lens to the Zeiss 55mm f1.8. The main reason that people buy this lens is for the swirly bokeh. You kind of have to position yourself the right distance away from your subject and also have enough of a backdrop behind your subject with enough contrast to kind of get that swirly bokeh. But if you can pull it off, it looks really good. You can buy this lens all over the place. Facebook Marketplace, eBay. They made literally millions of this lens, and you can get like a dirt cheap copy like I did. I paid $40 for this, and it also came attached to a camera. I mean, it looks like it was in a war. Or you can buy a completely rehoused one with cinema gears and everything for a few $100s. So there's definitely options out there. The Meyer Optic Gorlitz 135 f3.5. This is a super underrated lens in my opinion. It has a way of just melting the background. It's slightly on the warmer side, has a little halation, but has beautiful compression. The build quality is awesome. I bought this lens at a thrift store for $20. It was quite dirty, but I cleaned it up and now it's in good shape. The only downside to the copy I have is that it's Exacta mount. The adapters for Exacta seem to be fragile, and I'm on my second one. And the spring hook thing for those Exacta mounts are overly complex for what they are. If you can find one in an M42 thread mount, then get that instead. The Schneider Cruisenatch 200mm f5.6. This lens was a direct competitor to Zeiss and Meyer Optic glass back in the 60s. It's pretty clinically sharp aside from the fact that I have prehistoric dust and fuzz inside the optic. I use this lens to take all of the spotlight photos at the beginning of each lens breakdown. I bought this lens at an estate sale and actually met the original owner. She used this lens in high school to take pictures and told me she would sell it to me for $15 as long as I took good care of it. I am not joking. I will tear this lens apart because of dust. In the beginning of this video, I jokingly made a comparison of this 1960s relic of a lens to my beast of a lens, 200 to 600G. And I'll be completely honest with you, I ran a test and you would be very surprised at the results. Neither of them were particularly sharp when it came to the job that I tasked them with. Now, does that mean this is as good as my 200 to 600 lens? No, it's not, but it held its own comparatively, and I'll show that to you now. The left one is the vintage lens, and the right one is my 200 to 600G lens. Now, I'd be lying if I said that vintage lenses could completely replace your kit of modern lenses. A while back, I broke my favorite lens, and it forced me to adapt and find other ways to capture the important content that I needed to capture with my clients. And that's how I discovered vintage lenses. And to be completely honest with you, vintage lenses are really fun to mess around with. They reignite a spark in your creativity because they're different. They're not that same sterile look you're so used to getting all the time. They challenge you to actually stop your lens down and try and focus on your shot as opposed to just throwing on f1.8 and autofocus and then having your camera try and track your subject like a heat-seeking missile on a fighter jet. Now, they will never replace my modern autofocus lenses, but they are here to absolutely complement my workflow and provide artistic shots when needed. So go check out some vintage lenses. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm totally happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if you enjoyed this type of content, then hit that subscribe button. Peace.